Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown and Dunkirk, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives, to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives. From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hamels, and welcome to another edition of Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm a little haggard this morning. I was up late last night. Even for me, it was late. We went to a football game over in Erie. My great nephew was playing for St. Francis against Cathedral Prep. It was quite an interesting game. We were sitting in, 50-some degrees, which wasn't too bad. But then what happened was after the regulation time, it was tied 40-40. That was quite a lot of scoring. Well, in high school football, I found out that there is no such thing as a tie and that you play till somebody wins. They went to 6 overtimes. Think about that. The score ended up 72-78 because they start at the 10-yard line. Each team has a chance to score, and they kept scoring back and forth, so they finally, unfortunately, St. Francis lost in the end. But wow, that was an interesting experience. So I look kind of rough this morning. Anyways, welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. Good morning to all you that are watching us right now live throughout the area. Good afternoon to all my listeners on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people. Thanks for joining us. As always, I guess we're done, Jeff. I guess I'm not the only one. Jeff is back from a hiatus up in Colorado. I think that thing here got to you. So WRFA 107.
So, it's just like been tough this morning.
Hometown TV at its best. We rebroadcast our audio track, as y'all know, at on the radio on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. So thanks for joining us. We have a great show in store for you. We always have a great show in store for you. But today is one of my favorite areas because we're going to be talking about local history. I'll get to that in a minute. So let's see, where do I go with all this? So anyways, we got a cold start this morning. I don't know where you are, but it was 44 degrees on the hill in Ripley and very dewy. When I got here in Mayville, it was foggy. I could barely see getting into the studio. I was really surprised. Not near the lake, but more inland. So please, if you're leaving to go somewhere this morning, just kind of be aware that there could be some fog in the inner part of the county. Let's see here. I got a few notes I want to share with you. Oh, I know. Well, let's get to this part first. If you are watching and you have something you want to share, that happens from time to time. You just want to have a question. You guys are very shy. I don't get a lot of calls, but we do encourage you to call. If you have a question or a comment for my guest, or you want to announce something, give us a call, and Jeff will pop it back up here again at 716-753-5225. Or if you say, oh gosh, I'm shy, I don't want to talk to him live, it's no big deal really, it's just a phone call. You can email me at chautauquasunrise@gmail.com, and we will get your event on the air. We do this every single week. That's what these papers are all about. So happy to do that as part of my mission for the show, okay? So moving along, do a shout out to our friends in the Ukraine, Natalia and friends. I promised you I was going to let you know that we're thinking about all of you over there, and we think about you all the time, and we support you, and you should know that. So don't ever feel that you don't have friends here in the States. Every week I seem to be talking about another natural catastrophe. Libya, holy cow. Morocco. We had Hawaii. We got out west. I was thinking to myself when I came to the studio today that it seems like the earth is angry. We were having a lot of weather related incidents. We got the hurricanes season just popping up right now. Please keep folks in your thoughts. And once again, if you can support anybody, friends, relatives, do so through the proper channels. But I was watching on the news today over there in Libya. The floodwaters just washed out buildings and families. It was so sad. Okay, moving along. Cemetery walk this Friday and Saturday in Westfield. I am going to portray a 100-year-old man. Not far off. At least the way I feel this morning. I won't tell you too much about my character, but I will be portraying Austin Smith. He was a mover, not Smith. I'm sorry, that's not. Yeah, Austin Smith, that's his name. I was thinking it was a different name. Austin Smith, and he was a mover and shaker back in 1800s. He lived from 1804 to 1904, and he had a really colorful career in the Westfield, Fredonia area. So that's going to be, I believe, from 5:30 on Friday nights and 6 o'clock on Saturday. They're going to have these little carriage rides, and I think it's $15 or a ticket. Go to Lakeshore Center for the Arts. You can sign up for tickets. I think there's going to be like a dozen of different historical characters. My good friend Libby has been doing all the research on that, and well, you're going to have to find me out there among the rocks and the stones. I'll be there. So coming up this Friday and Saturday, the Westfield Lakeshore Center for the Arts, they're having their cemetery tour. So it's going to be really a lot of fun. It's not supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be more historical. Okay. Let's see. Coming up on the show, I got my good friend Michelle Henry, who is a historian extraordinaire, and we're going to be delving into some things here in the county. I won't tell you all about it quite yet, but I will share this much. I'm the town historian in Ripley, and I don't even, a pale light compared to what her experiences are as a historian, but I want to share with you that as a historian, there is not a single week, I think since I've been in this post going on 4 years now, that I don't get a request from somebody that says, could you tell me more about my family, And we don't do genealogy research, but we help people with information, and that points them into their work a lot of the times. But I just got a call or email from somebody from Alberta, Canada. They wanted to know about their family in Ripley in the 1830s. I got a phone call the other day from another family. I don't even know who their family is yet because they haven't given me the information, but they're coming to visit Ripley in October, and they want to go back to the cemeteries and find out their roots. People just seem to be really interested in their roots lately, and more so with all this DNA testing and all that sort of thing. So I encourage you to support your local historians. They are required by law here in New York State, all of our municipalities and villages and towns. And, make sure that you maybe give them a call sometime and visit. There's historical societies in many of our villages and towns, and it's important stuff, and people really are interested. Two separate grandchildren of mine this year wanted to know their family history. Thank goodness I created our family genealogy chart years ago, so it was easy email to them, but it was just funny that it skipped a whole generation, and my grandchildren want to know about their roots. So we're going to be talking about roots and history here in Chautauqua County, so stay tuned. All right, so we have some announcements to share with you, and then we'll get to Michelle here shortly. So let's start with Little Richard. You might say, what are you talking about? There's some things going on at the Reginald and Egg soon. There's a Little Richard documentary and this is an interesting combination, new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're going to be shown at the Reginald and Egg Center for the Arts coming up. All right, Little Richard. It's called I Am Everything. I can just hear him saying that. It's going to be shown September 20th. That's this week. Tells the story of the black queer origins of rock and roll, exploding whitewashed canon of American pop music to reveal the innovator, the originator, the one and only Richard Penniman. I didn't know that was his last name. I didn't know he had one. I always thought his last name was Richard. I said joke. Through a wealth of archive and performance that brings us into Richard's complicated inner world, the film unspools the icon's life story with all its switchbacks and contradictions. Little Richard, I Am Everything, is unrated. It's 98 minutes long. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that movie. I don't remember what it was called, but it was all about Queen. Maybe Bohemian Rhapsody or something like that was maybe the name of the movie. Anyways, but he had a similar background in lifestyle and experiences in his way of trying to get through his music and stuff like that. So this sounds pretty cool. Next, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I thought they were gone. I thought, they're resurrecting a lot of these old shows and these... this is the animated version, Jeff tells me. No, so it's not quite as good as the other one. But after years of being sheltered from the human world, the Turtle Brothers set out to win the hearts of New Yorkers and be accepted as normal teenagers through heroic acts. Okay. Their new friend, April O'Neil, helps them take on mysterious crime syndicates, but they soon get in over their heads when an army of mutants is unleashed upon them. The family showing of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, called Mutant Mayhem, is rated PG. It's 109 minutes long. Okay. Upcoming movies include the Sprout Film Festival, Cillian Murphy in the title role of Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is going to be shown September 30th. Oh, the Sprout Film Festival, is going to be September 27th. Oppenheimer is September 30th. And then a Palace Theater 100th anniversary special engagement of the 1988 comedy Beetlejuice will be shown October 21, just in time for Halloween. And of course, their annual The Rocky Horror Picture Show, October 27th. That's going to be shown at 10 a.m. Justin, have you ever seen that one? No. You? Have you seen it? Oh, you have. I guess somehow I missed the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I guess they bring things and they throw things and all kinds of fun things. Tickets are $7 for the most part, $6 for family films. And of course, they add $1 for theater restoration. Want tickets? Give them a call at 484-707. And you can go to the box office and get your tickets there. All right, moving along. Things are going on in the county here. All right, we've got the Walk for the Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's, September 23rd at 10 a.m. We got a slide on that, I think, Jeff, or something. I don't know. It says slide 16. Point Gratiot Park in Dunkirk. It's amazing how people say the town of Gary and they say Gratiot. They just kill those two names. Point Gratiot's up there in Dunkirk, right along the lake. Beautiful setting. My band played for them last year. Then, why do you want to walk? At the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's, we're fighting for a different future for families facing the disease today. For more time, for treatments, we're closer than ever to stop Alzheimer's. But to get there, we need you to join them, the world's largest fundraiser to fight the disease. Now, you can do a throwback and watch one of my shows from a couple weeks ago. Dana Corwin was on the show with Randy when I was stuck in Charlotte, and you can review what's going on with the Alzheimer's Walk. Okay, so that's September 23 at 10 a.m. Festival of Grapes continuing this weekend over at Silver Creek, New York. There's a poster there. Arts and Crafts Show Saturday 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's amusements and the concessions today from noon to 10 p.m. and then tomorrow from noon to 5 by Midgety Entertainment. Midgety. That's how you say it. There's a dice run, and then you have to give them a holler. It'll give me a phone number for that. Anyways, it's up in Silver Creek. You can give them the town hall for that. There's going to be a petting zoo, kids activity tent. There's going to be a parade at 1 o'clock, music. Saturday from 2 to 4, Paul Aguirre, 4:30 to 7:30, Two Towns. I heard good things about them. 7:30 to 10:30, classic rock and roll stars are going to be playing. So, Festival of Grapes this weekend in Silver Creek. Of course, it's always a lot of fun. Check it out. Moving along, Faulkner, New York. Cornell, a cooperative extension of Chautauqua County's 4-H program, is getting ready to start their LEAF junior classes back up after a long summer and fair season. The LEAF, which stands for Learn, Empower, Achieve, and Farm series, was created to focus on the beginning farming and homesteading topics for adult learners. LEAF Junior will offer similarly styled classes that cater to youth ages 5 through 19. You might say, why in the world do you even talk about this? Because it's part of our county. We got lots of farmers and in all areas of farming here in Chautauqua County. So I like to make sure that people know that there are classes and things to go to that you can learn. The event will take place Thursday, September 28th, 6 p.m. at the Patterson Library, which is just down the street in Westfield. Participants will wash, peel, cut, boil, and mash their own apples into applesauce. This will be free to all youth with an optional $5 donation to the program. Please remember, you do not need to be enrolled in 4-H to participate. All right, if you're interested, give Lauren a call at 326-2154. 326-2154. All right, so that's going to be the Cornell Extension at the Patterson Library. All right, and we've had 4-H here before, so they're doing wonderful things working with kids and husband and animal husbandry, farming, learning how to take crops that are local and make them into good things, which reminds me, you got farmers markets that are still going on right now, especially in Westfield. They're crazy big over there. I think Jamestown is wrapping up, and Mayville, I'm not sure if they're still going, but they're Thursdays from 1 to 5 as well. Now, this was, I think, canceled, but I think it's been rescheduled, but I'm going to read it anyways. The Magic of Motown is coming, but they've rescheduled it, and I think it's going to be in November. But we have a slide on that. And just to remind you that the high-energy homage to the legends of Motown will transport you, there they are, back in time as you visit the very best of Hitsville, USA. They're going to have vocalists doing music by Diana Ross and the Supremes, Marvin Gaye and the Jackson 5, and all that sort of thing. So I guess I'm going to tell you that if you're interested, give them a call at 330-759-4570. All right. So this is going to be at the Reg, of course, and you give them a call at 484-7070 and find out when the tickets are. But I do remember there was a cancellation on that and rescheduled. So that sounds wonderful. That's real. I grew up on that music, especially up in Buffalo. That was very popular. Okay, and finally, I made a promise to my friend Dana and Mary Ann Spanos. Number 19, Music for Mom, and that's going to take place today, September 16th, rain or shine, over at Tanglewood Outdoor Park, okay? And it's a concert to support Alzheimer's awareness and research, okay? And they're going to have a performance by Blue Morning. I've heard really good things about them. So Music for Mom, today, September 16th, 1 to 3 p.m. My crew, who always does my research while I'm talking, just updated me, and that Motown show will be November 11th. So that I knew that there was a cancellation on that. I just didn't remember when it was. All right, we're going to take a little breather. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Genres Bookshop at the YWCA in Westfield, New York, is hosting a sip and sign for author Mary Ellen Humphrey and her newest book, Angels, ETs, miracles, and messages, My Mysterious and Paranormal Experiences. This will be on September 26th, 2023 at 5 o'clock in the evening. Come on by.
There's an example of a locally produced promotion over at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts Innovations studio, where they cut their own little advertisement and asked me if I would run it for them. And Genres is a bookstore right down the road here in Westfield, down the road from here. I'm in Mayville, down the road down there on Main Street. Or no, it's on Porter Street. They are going to have this little promotion for Mary Ellen Humphrey, who's been on the show. She's a writer, lovely lady. And of course, Shannon was the one that was doing the voiceover. And so great people, great writers. So today we're going to talk about history in Chautauqua County. And I want to welcome back Michelle Henry.
Thank you.
And Michelle, what are we going to call you? Retired county historian, but still active with the Historical Society. And do you have a title now?
I'm a rogue historian, maybe. I don't know. You always end up going back to the things you love.
Yep.
And so, I love history. I love local history. So I'm not in an official capacity, but I still dabble.
Everybody knows you. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows you as the county the county historian, and of course you work with the Historical Society for Chautauqua County, which is housed where at the McClurg, right?
At the McClurg Museum in Westfield, right in the center of the village.
So we contacted a little bit about what we were going to talk about today, and I think I mentioned to you that a number of people have told me they really enjoy when we talk about Chautauqua history, and as I said in my opening comments, people want to know stuff. It's just so way cool. And I always tell people, you got to think about any town, any village, any family, like a layered cake. There's the base part of it, and then you just keep adding layers. And people have lost like the middle layers, right?
Right.
We forget it. We all know about, when the country was formed in the 1700s and 1600s and all that stuff. But we forgot about the late 1700s and the mid 1800s and stuff like that. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I have been intrigued with the German settlers who came to the town of Mina. And the reason I started with this interest was because my family is one of them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so when I was the historian, you don't always get much time to do your own research, which is okay. But so I've dabbled in trying to learn more about them. They were early arrival from Germany into the town of Mina.
How early?
Well, they came in 1843.
That's pretty early.
And so there was quite a little settlement that developed in the 1840s right at Mina Corners. And they had their own German Lutheran church. Mm-hmm. And so there were enough folks there to support a German language church and pastor. So that was interesting to me. And I think part of what I've learned, and it's what we should always remember when you're doing research, is that you can't assume anything.
I'm laughing because it is so true. People's memories are not real good.
Right, and so, when people are writing an account later in life of what transpired, it's a great resource, but it doesn't mean it's 100% accurate.
It's a beginning point, yeah.
And you also, I think, assume if there was a whole group of folks who settled in one area that perhaps they came from the same place in Germany. Mm-hmm. So, that was my hope, because I hadn't had much luck finding where my ancestors came from in Germany.
So what was the family name?
It's when they arrived here, it was Roder, and it was heard here as Raider. Ah. And so two brothers came, and one brother stuck with the spelling of Rater, and the other brother apparently, spelling was pretty fluid in those days, so you didn't always have a consistency. The other brother ended up being Raider. So two brothers came at the same time, came together, end up with completely different surnames.
But it was originally Rhoda?
It was originally, right, Roder, with the little umlaut.
And they would say Rhoda.
Right. So so that was what's on the ship manifest for them when
Understood.
they came.
Yeah.
So, it's like you always hear these things. Oh, when folks arrived, the ship's manifest gave a lot of information about them. The village they came from and their occupation and their destination in the United
Sometimes
States.
their height, color of eyes, things like that. I've seen.
So, a lot of the other Germans who came to Mina came in 1846. And those ships list do exactly that. It gives the full name of every member of the family, their age, their occupation in Germany, the town they were from, and their destination in the States. Unfortunately, in 1843, and either it was just the ships, whoever was in charge of making the manifest, wasn't terribly interested. And so everybody on the ship, everyone on the ship is from Germany.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone on the ship was a farmer. And apparently after they put in so they did H. Roeder, his wife, didn't give her a name. And then every other person on the page is a female because they put her in as a female and just ran a line down the page.
Wow.
So all 3 of his sons are on the ship's list as being females.
Oh my gosh. What?
So,
okay.
So there's, so sometimes you just feel like everywhere where you think you're going to find the information you're looking for.
You're just waiting for that juicy moment. I got it.
You finally find the ship's manifest that has them, and then the bursar, whoever it was lackadaisical.
I'm amazed that you even got the manifest. How many times have you done this? And people are listening right now. Take note. You go through newspapers, and you've got this collection of newspapers, and you look at, I don't know, I'll make up a date, June 1878, and you got May, and you got August, and you got July, and June's missing.
Yes.
How many times has that happened? But I'm
Yes.
just as surprised you even found the manifest, because my luck is I can never find the one I'm looking for, but I find everything else.
Right. And then I was, just because his wife was just named as his wife, I did find her in later censuses. But when she died, and this is typical too of the time period in the newspaper, the only notice says, "Old Mrs. Rader died recently in Mina."
Yes.
So poor woman didn't even get her name in her death notice. Wow. So there were a lot of things that I was hoping, would help me find information about them. And I thought, well, let me look at these other German families, and maybe there were some connections. Maybe they came here because they were from the same area in Germany.
And let's talk about that more generically. My understanding, and I'm going to take a couple of examples. Clymer, Dutch, Ripley, Irish, and English. Now Mina, and by the way, it's not Mina, it's Mina. Just like it's not Jerry, or Gary, it's Jerry. Or Jerry, it's Gary, not Jerry. I'm getting all mixed up here, but people do pronounce Mina as Mina sometimes. They go, no, it's not Mina. But there was, I want to say a sponsorship where you would have a brother-in-law that would go ahead, or somebody would establish something, and then they would work the farm for a while and send money for them to come over. Is that what maybe was going on here?
Well, not that I have found. And so, and I guess maybe it's the historian in me where I'm, it makes you just want to know what was going on.
Yeah.
And the problem that it's not a problem, it's the situation, it's the history of that area, is at that time it was all Prussia. It wasn't Germany. Germany didn't become an organized country until the 1850s.
Yes, Belgium was the same way, same thing.
So there wasn't really, they weren't all German, they were Prussian, and the Prussian borders were quite fluid at different times. And so it included at times part of Poland, Russia, Austria, but they were all Prussian.
So it was sort of like the eastern part of Germany.
Yes. And so when they came here and they had to file their naturalization papers, they had to give up loyalty to the King of Prussia. So that kind of also leaves you with more questions, because were they actually what's now Poland or what's now Russia? So I started looking at the other German families who came in 1846, thinking, well, maybe they came because my raiders were here and they, and in 1846 the ship's manifest was more detailed, so I got some village names, and they were all from that eastern border of what is now Germany, and they were in the states, or what, the equivalent of a state of Saxony and Saxony-Anhalt. So I narrowed down the other families, and one of them was Lorenzo Buck and his family, and there was quite a detailed account that one of his descendants wrote, or maybe it was even his wife, and then it was shared with the Historical Society in Mina, which is a wonderful place. If anybody's interested in researching anything in Mina, they should go to the Findlay Lake and Mina Historical Society. So they have this nice, like, 2-page personal account of them coming in 1846. And they came into New York and then ended up on the Erie Canal and then came down Lake Erie to Barcelona, and there was a German-speaking Cooper
barrel maker.
Yeah, and so he suggested to them that they go to Mina.
Oh.
He said there's already some German families there, and it's good land, and the land here was cheap.
So they didn't know each other then?
Right. So as far as I can, they were directed there by this
But what
gentleman.
I mean is, it's possible that he just said, "There's Germans over there. Go see your people," kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I started doing some research into Prussia, and a lot of those folks who were coming in the 1840s were coming for religious freedom. That was the purpose that they gave.
Absolutely true.
And so when you start looking at the history of Prussia, you realize it wasn't just religious freedom, but the king had kind of tied religious practices into all facets of their lives at that time.
Yes.
So he forced the churches all to merge into one church. And then you weren't allowed to practice the religion of your choice. You had to practice the state's designated
whatever
religion.
the king said.
Your children had to go to schools that were run by that state religion. And if your children didn't go to those schools and didn't get a certificate to show they completed their studies, they couldn't get a job. So it really put everybody over a barrel. So it wasn't just religious persecution; it was affecting every part of their economic lives. So there was kind of this mass exodus of Lutherans who all decided they needed to leave. Some went to Australia. They didn't all come to the United States. But in 1843, there was a large group trying to leave, and of course the government didn't like that. They were embarrassed that all these people were leaving. And so you had to get permission to leave. You had to file paperwork and get a permit to leave. And so the government started dragging their feet and not processing the paperwork. So people who had been saving up their money to come to the United States and were selling off everything that they thought they didn't need, found themselves still there and having no farm tools, so it was a real, it was a very difficult. The government was also publishing a lot of tracts in the newspaper saying, there's wild animals there that will eat you, in the United States.
Discourage you a bit.
Yeah. There are Native Americans who will massacre you.
Oh,
they were
no
doing
Indians here
everything.
then?
Well, certainly in the West still, but not in New York State.
That's what I'm saying, not here.
Yeah, so they were saying, the woods are untamed and there's savages and
that's funny.
they still have slaves. So there were a lot of things they were trying to say to discourage people from coming. The other thing they did that I think is just terrible is if you had a son who was of the right age to be eligible for military duty, they weren't letting them leave. And military duty was mandatory.
Yeah.
So that was another reason people left, is because they knew their sons were going to be gone for as much as 7 years.
Get going while they're young yet. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also if your child was adopted, they wouldn't give them a permit. And if a child had been born out of wedlock, they wouldn't give them a permit.
Wow.
So families were divided up, because they were, some folks were not allowed.
Some could leave, some couldn't leave.
Right, right. So it's always difficult. It's always hard. I think it's hard for people to imagine how difficult it must have been to make that decision, to come here knowing you're leaving behind probably your elderly parents, maybe some of your children.
You may never see them again.
And you probably weren't going to see them again. And that's, that was just the reality of the time. And so for these folks who were the Lutherans, who came, they felt they were being directed by God. They said, we're coming because we feel that we have to. And so So like one of the first groups I found coming to Western New York was in 1835, and they went up into the Buffalo area.
Right.
And they were writing letters back home, encouraging people to come. And that got circulated in Prussia a lot, those letters.
Right, and in Buffalo, there's a big German contingencies to this day. I mean, you
Yes.
go through that one section on the east side of Buffalo, I think it is, and all the German names of the churches. And I mean, I grew up in Buffalo, so
Yep.
I know these things, because we had the Italian Quarter, the German Quarter, the Irish Quarter, and those sort of things back then, yeah.
Right. And in Niagara County, there were 3 villages that were formed, specifically by the Lutherans. And so I found this book, which was really helpful, and it has nothing to do with Chautauqua County, but it was written by a man whose family came into Niagara County from Prussia in the same time, 1843. And so it really helped to just kind of fill out some of the story about what was happening there and how they got here. And, it was a 2-month-long voyage.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, and for them, they were in steerage.
Yeah,
and so,
it's really terrible.
there's a family story there again, I can't substantiate it, that 2 raider daughters died on the voyage and were buried at sea.
Very, very common from what I've read.
And so for a lot of the boats that were where he specifically documented the families in Niagara County, they say 5 children died on this voyage.
There was no doctor. There was no medicine. It's easy to get whatever the diseases everybody had on the ship or whatever,
Right.
Just think of think about if somebody had COVID. We'll give it, the COVID of the day. If that was widespread on that ship, you're a goner.
Right. And I think just sometimes the motion sickness was so extreme and they got so dehydrated.
That'd
and
be
they
me.
Yeah.
That'd be me.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be enough Dramamine on that ship.
Right.
I do have a question. I don't know if you said it or not, but what was the village from where your family ended up, or the 1946 or 1846 group? What was the name of the village? Do you recall?
Well, I can tell you. Bergholz was one of them, and Breslau.
Okay.
Breslau.
The reason being is because when I've been in Germany a lot over the years, because we call it our adopted family up in Lower Saxony. They live up in the Hanover, above Frankfurt, way up in the north there, and we toured Eastern Germany, and we went to the very village where Martin Luther took his hammer and posted his proclamation about religion on the door of whatever was the church at the time.
Yeah.
So I remember it was a very small village, and you piqued my interest when you talked about the Lutherans, because I know that they were very separate from the churches of the day, and that he was promoting a whole different way of looking at things.
Right.
And I say this to the people that are watching right now, so many of our families came over with a church group. They were associated with the Methodists or the Catholics or the Lutherans, the Protestants or whatever, and they were clustered around their churches. I mean, it was their faith. It was very, very strong. And how many times have you seen in your work where you have church records of all the members? I mean, that might be the only place that person's name shows up as part of that congregation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, and I'm telling people this right now because if you're listening and you want to know more about your family heritage here in Chautauqua County, there's records available. And I ask you about those villages because if somebody's listening right now, say, my aunt came from that town, and they might want to get a hold of you or something.
Right. And so that's part of the the challenge of doing research in another country is knowing what records may exist and then where to find them. And so church records are a big
time.
Big deal.
Baptisms,
but of course, then
marriages,
you need to know the village where
Yeah.
they came from,
Yeah.
and then the districts over there. There's a government level of a district, and so there are some archives that are government run, and so those are another place that you need to try to figure out, where your family came from, at least to get to a district level.
So why did the original group in 1843 go to Mina? Do we know that?
Well, I can't. My family is the first family that I can find there, but there again, there aren't a lot of records.
Yeah. So did they farm it then?
Oh yeah, so they were farmers. Stayed in the area. Some moved up into Ripley, but
there's all kinds of raiders in. Is it the same group?
Yes. Yes.
All right, just a different spelling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they stayed, and the brother with the different spelling ended up moving into Erie County, PA, just over the line. But for the most part, they were here for the next, however many generations. And those other German families were pretty much in that. They were all farmers for the most part, and you couldn't really buy land in Germany because it was already taken up, or in Prussia, I guess I should say, by these large estate holders.
Right.
And so everybody was basically a serf. You worked for somebody who owned the land, and you had a little bit of land of your own that you could use to grow crops for yourself, but it wasn't really your land. And so, I think even with the opportunity to have the religion of your choice, but just knowing you could be a landowner. I mean, that's a huge incentive, I think. And when kids are in school, they're taught about push-pull factors for leaving. There's some people leave because they're pushed out, and some come because they're pulled here. And I think for these folks it was certainly both. You felt pushed out because of the restrictions on your religious practices, but then also just knowing you could you could own your own land and grow your land.
Okay, let's hold that thought. We got Mike from Portland on the line. So, morning, Mike.
Hi, Doc. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. I know your guest is Michelle Henry, and what I didn't know is I guess you must have retired from full-time service to the county. Michelle may or may not remember me.
It's Mike Felsman.
Mike Felsman from Portland.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember me or not.
You worked at the landfill.
I worked at the landfill.
That's where I met Mike too.
Yeah.
On a visit
and
one time.
And I also taught your kids how to swim in Brockton, or helped them with swimming.
That's right.
Some years ago, because I was a part-time swim instructor too. But anyways, I find this very interesting, and one of the main reasons I'm finding this so interesting is actually, Doc, you brought it up about the Buffalo, and then the German and Lutheran heritage, if you will, in Buffalo.
Absolutely, it's huge.
And I think you probably remember that I was born in Buffalo. In fact, my family roots really aren't in Chautauqua County. My family history is Buffalo, and then whenever they came over from Germany, because
here we go.
I'm a German Lutheran, basically, and that you might not have known. But so I'm finding this very interesting. At least that end of it, and anything I would find on my family would be in Buffalo. I've started doing some research. I actually finally joined Ancestry.com and a couple other of the, I think I joined Archives and a couple of the more popular and at least reasonably budgeted search engines for Ancestry on the internet.
Right.
I guess I haven't spent a lot of time lately, but I did spend some time. I've started to put some things together. I guess, I don't know, Michelle, if you have any general advice, even Doc, as I kind of go forward, just to try to find and put some things together. I don't exactly know when my family came from Germany.
Okay.
But I do know they spelled their name a little differently at one time.
Oh, yeah.
The middle letter was a Z and not an S. And that I did know. So, like I say, I guess I just wanted to call in, say hello.
Oh, that's great, Mike. It's very pertinent. Yeah.
And it's such a small world, in some ways.
It truly is.
Right, and I do think, just if you can just try to just keep tracking them backwards through the census records or, any records you can find. If you can find their naturalization records, depending on when they came, there could be a lot of information in the naturalization records, or there could not be. I mean, it depends on the time period.
Mike, this is going to sound weird, but, and Michelle will know what I'm talking about. Go to Find a Grave.
Okay.
All right. It's a website. It's free. It's called Find a Grave, all one word.
I'm familiar with it.
All right, and then you punch in the best information you can and search, a relative. Well, you'll be surprised if people have posted things out there or obituaries or the siblings, and then you just go down the rabbit hole from there and you keep clicking on different spouses and brothers and sisters. That's just one simple little tool that you can use. And then, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, anything you get your hands on. Do you know the village that your family's from?
In Germany?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Not a clue.
Okay.
At this point.
All right.
Yeah. But anyways, and the other thing that I found, and I didn't know this, and this is just an interesting fact your viewers might enjoy. I found on the internet not too long ago they were having like this big fanfare. The 1952 census has been released. I'm thinking 1950. I wasn't born until 1955. You know, why all the excitement about 1952? And I think, Doc, you know the answer. I think Michelle probably does. I bet the viewers don't. They don't release them for 70 years.
Oh, you mean in Europe? Yeah.
No,
in America.
It's the 1950 census that was just released, because they're done in every year, you know, that ends in a zero. But you're right, they're not released for 75 years because they are concerned about living people's privacy.
Europe is the same way. They don't release things for like 100 years over there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. But anyways, I just wanted to say hello and thank you for the information.
Hang on 1 second more, Mike. I have one more thought. Michelle, help me on this one. Local libraries, a lot of them have subscriptions to some of these research bases for free. Is that true?
Right. There is a library edition of Ancestry. And so if your local library subscribes to that, you can go and use their subscription.
So check it out, Mike. Your local library may have an ability for you to do some research right there.
Okay. I'll ask a question now. Is it any different than the Ancestry that I subscribe to and can use right at home?
Well, it depends on what level of subscription you have, and the library might have more records available, because there are different levels of membership.
Okay.
And then I'll mention too, the 1900 census, if you can find your family in the 1900 census, they asked everybody if they emigrated, if they were immigrants, when they emigrated. So a lot of people, it gives the year of their emigration, and that would really help you out.
Oh, that's a good one because, my grandparents would definitely be in there, and my great-grandparents.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, super.
All right.
Good luck.
Hey, Mike, thanks for calling. That was very pertinent and relative to what our discussion is today.
Oh,
thanks.
good. Oh, thanks.
Okay, take care. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
All right, so there's a perfect example of what we're talking about, is people talking to people about their family. All right, so Mina had German Lutherans, okay, and then we had the 46 group that came over. Then what happened?
Well, so I guess in my dreams, I would find that these families, because the account that Lorenzo Buck wrote of his arrival said that they left their village with 60 families in 1846, and because the ship's manifest asked what their destination was, then you can look on that, and it was a large ship. There were several hundred people on it, and their destinations were all really quite all over the place. Some were Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and then Lorenzo Buck and his son-in-law, who came with him, they had Buffalo as their destination. So I knew that at least they were reporting they were at least intending to go as far as Buffalo. So I tried to see if there are other folks who were on that ship with them who listed Buffalo as their destination, ended up in Mina, and they didn't. So I guess, as much as anything, it's a process of elimination. So I've kind of just started to track some of the families just kind of independently, just to see. And so Germans continued to trickle in, like during the late 1840s and then early 1850s. And I know that about that time in Prussia, the religious restrictions were lifted. And so that may have slowed the flow of folks coming here. So I haven't gone much farther than that in tracking some of these German families in Mina. And I honestly have not found an overarching connection, and of course some of them intermarried once they got here, obviously, because they're all neighbors and they're living around each other. But as far as just being able to link them to a common place in Prussia, I have not been able to do that. So I guess it's a cautionary tale. Don't assume, even though they're all Prussian Lutherans and they're all coming within a 10 or 15 year time period. I think there were just so many Lutherans leaving Prussia at that time that, and the letters that were circulated, they may have come to Buffalo, and then somebody suggested that there's more land available in Chautauqua County. So it's just one of those things I think I'll just continue to dabble at and just continue to compile records on the families there to see what I can find.
We have another phone call. You got two today so far. Morning, Linda.
Oh, good morning. You knew who it was.
I know everything.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
I always love it when you come on because you have such wonderful details about our history.
Oh, thanks.
And I enjoy hearing about the people that came over from Germany because I had a great-grandmother. Her name was Winkler, who was from Baden-Baden, who came over. And then they and her husband, too, was from that area. And they moved to Scranton, Pennsylvania when they came over. And then they came to Lackawanna because of the steel mill.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that whole area is very predominant German, so that would make a lot of sense.
Well, half of the family was Catholic and half the family was Lutheran.
There you go. Exactly what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. And my mother said that if there was like a mixed marriage between a Catholic and a Lutheran, well, what they did, they were very different. If the wife was Catholic, then all the girls that were born would be Catholic, and if the husband were Lutheran, if he was Lutheran, then all the boys born would be Lutheran.
I've never heard that before. That's a new one.
Wow, yeah, that's I'm really kind of surprised the churches went along with that because they could be pretty hardline about.
Well, I don't know if the churches went along with it.
That was the family rule, anyways.
That's what they did, and they're buried in Eden, New York. A lot of them are there, and you can see here some are Catholic, some are Lutheran.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Well, death certificates can be helpful because of course, you don't know who. You know who wasn't giving the information, but that's about all you do know is But if the person who was giving the information knew where that person was born or where their parents were born, that can be a real valuable, record.
Unless you're my uncle who wrote up my grandmother's and had it all wrong.
Right. I
was like, what were you drinking that day? Holy mackerel, it was all messed up.
And just like, the census, you don't know who answered the door.
Yeah.
And it could have been, one of the children who didn't really know, or it could have been a servant, depending on the family. But
often there's information there that is correct.
Well, and I think the key is finding multiple, tracking them in the census so you can kind of come up with.
Don't accept the first thing you see.
Right, and women definitely did not age as fast as their husbands. That's just a fact, that their age typically didn't match their husband's age growing.
Yeah. My grandmother lied on hers. She was always 10 years younger.
Yeah.
We thought she was 84 when she passed. I figured out she was 94.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
No, really, that's a true story. I'm not making that up. I found her, in the census in Ireland back in 1901, and she was in her 20s. I go, how can you be this age and be this age when you got, it didn't line up? So I said, oh, Grammy. Well, Linda, thanks for calling in. It's a good. Mike just shared his story, so that was great.
Oh yeah, I just love these stories about history, and the cemetery walks really sounds exciting.
Oh yeah, that's coming up this Friday. I think you'll enjoy that.
Yeah. There's so many interesting things. A lot of famous people are buried in cemeteries around here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, super. Well, thanks for calling in, Lindy. Have a good weekend.
Okay, have a wonderful weekend.
All right, take care.
You too. Thanks. Bye bye.
Okay, so, see if you agree with this or not. I remember clearly once my mom says, do the family history. I go, what do you mean, what do you want to know? So, well, just everything. That's not how you do a family history. So where do you suggest people start? I always tell them with one simple question, very finite, who was my father, or where was this born? And start with one simple, tiny little itty-bitty question and research that question and then let it span out. That's my recommendation to people.
I usually suggest that too, that you need to start with the information that you have,
right.
Like your parents, your grandparents, and then and then decide what what it is you hope to learn. And that's how, when people would call me at the office and they'd say, oh, I really looking for information on my family. And I'd say, well, what information? Well, what do you have? And you can't really, you really need to have a bit of a focus. Certainly if you're going to a repository and wanting to do research there, you can't just say, give me everything you got. So Are you looking for land records? Are you looking for census or vital records, birth, death, and marriages? And just allow yourself the time to process what you find before you try to take the next move, because things will occur to you, once you've kind of had a chance to digest what you just learned.
Write down what you learned and where you got it from. Because I don't know how many times I've gone back and said, where did I get the information from? Because I need to cross-reference it and I forgot it. You know?
And what could I have looked for there that I didn't think of at the time?
And here's another thing, folks, and see if you do the same thing. All right now let's pretend this is, I don't know, I'll make it up, a marriage certificate. All right, so you're looking at this and you say, okay, I got the information, but I neglected to look in the margin. Sometimes somebody will put a little note or on the back or something. So look at the document completely, because sometimes there's a date or somebody's initials. Or I found this to be true. You know, little things that you don't even realize are there.
The name of the witnesses might end up being relatives you didn't know yet.
Yeah.
So so
get all that
pay
information
attention
down,
to all of that. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we got still about 2.5 minutes left. So what else you want to tell us about the Mina of the Germans? Anything else?
Well, I guess, and I would encourage everybody to, if you're interested in your family history, don't just look at the data you find on your family. Look at the context of what was happening at the time, because I think it really helped me going back and learning more about Prussian history. It really helped me to understand why they were coming here. And, it's not going to necessarily answer the questions you have, but it's just going to give you a better understanding of those people. And I think ultimately that's what we want when we're trying to research our family history, is we want to feel like we know those people better. And so you really, I always feel like I understand their story when I can put it in the context of what was going on in this country, this county. It's like, why Mina? Well, Mina has good farmland, and that might have been in, a lot of people say that the landscape here is similar to Germany.
It is
and
very
so
similar.
If you have to uproot your family and, move 5,000 miles away, at least you
familiar.
can find some place where you
Rolling
feel
hills,
like it's
oak trees, things like that.
So, so I think it's always good to just, pull in the other factors of the time, what was going on here, what was going on there. And I just think it helps you have a better story.
And is there a historical group in Mina? Did you say?
Yeah, the Findlay Lake and Mina Historical Society is located in the former elementary school on North Street.
I know exactly where that is. Okay.
Yeah, and they just are doing a fabulous job, and they have grown. They now have expanded into additional space in that building, and the folks who are working there are just doing a wonderful job. So there's a lot of information.
Okay, half a minute left. So if people are interested in learning about Mina history, German, Lutherans in that area, that'd be a good location to check out.
That would be a good place to start, and then you can take your research wherever it leads you. So
I don't care how old you are right now, folks. This is just a feeling I have, and something I share. Write down your family history as you know it, and put it in a folder, and let your kids know where it is. Because someday someone's going to want to know that. And it could be medical history. It could be a lot of different things. Just share information, because kids later on want to know.
And include yourself.
Absolutely.
So start with yourself, because you're absolutely right. We have gaps in our family histories because people were looking at past and they didn't collect the things from the most recent.
Folks, Michelle Henry's been my guest, and this is always, I love these shows when we talk about this sort of thing. So thanks for sharing the history of your family in Mina, New York. And I hope you all enjoyed the show as well. Also keep in mind that Oak Island Plus has just recorded its 5th episode, coming up soon here on Access Chautauqua. Will be showing. If you have an idea for a show or you have a comment, please send it over to us. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and check out all the cool things that are going on here in Chautauqua County. I'm Doc Hamels. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.